This is literally going to transform your life.
And what I love about belief coding is there's a process. It's really clear and easy to follow.
I've had many forms of therapy, and this is definitely by far one of my go-tos. So if it's for anything else, I'm not even using it for my business, I'm using it for me, to heal myself, to work through blocks, to build that sense of self-awareness.
You know, trauma isn't always with a capital T. It doesn't have to be huge and big. There's more little T traumas in our lives that make us who we are, and buried in those traumas are a set of belief systems.
Just taking part in the process has changed the way that I view everything that I do.
It's just been such an adventure. I think the person I ended up helping the most so far is myself, which is not what I was expecting.
The energy and the love and the support absolutely found my tribe.
It's amazing. You're going to transform your life and every single person that you use belief coding on, one belief at a time.
Hello and welcome to the Love, Peace, Truth, Karma podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Brown, and I've got an incredible, inspiring lady today, Katherine Macbean, who has been the driving force behind creating the People's Health Alliance. This is where the new world is being created for the greater good of the people, how we can take control back of our own health. You do not want to miss this. Enjoy the podcast.
If you're in China, you just know it's corrupt. They want it to be like that here.
People are pretending to be 12-year-old kids, mate, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're 40-year-old men.
Now we're getting bombarded with all these death numbers, but there's no context there.
He'd got one child pregnant, he'd raped many others, and we had evidence to prove that.
Do you think evil still exists today as it did back then? And the answer should very simply be yes.
So, Katherine, thank you so much. Again, apologies for my not letting you know, and thank you for rushing back, for getting back on, jumping back on for me. We were introduced on the Divine Show, and I was great that I was able to interview you on there and find a little bit about the People's Health Alliance, which is just incredible. And I'm so grateful for people like you that have took it upon themselves to really bring people together. And this is obviously much needed. So for our viewers, can you just tell us like a bit about you, first of all, and your background and why you decided to grab this by the ball, so to speak,
yes,
and run with it?
Have. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I had my awakening quite early on. It was about 25 years ago. I very boringly became aware that there were issues within agriculture and how we farm and how we produce food, because I was working in that area. And you know what it's like. You start looking down one rabbit hole and very soon after you go down another. But obviously back then there wasn't the information available that we've got now. You can get it at a click of a finger, and you've suddenly got all that information in front of you. So it was proper research back then. It was doing the legwork yourself to find out what was really going on. And the more I went down this, the more I realized actually there's some serious issues here. You've got companies like Monsanto who are having such a control over, how we produce food. But look at what they've done. Look at the background. Look at what they did previously, and who they were connected to, and the fact that the people who were owning the company owned weather betting companies and blah, blah, blah. So we all go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, hence the veganism. Like I had my friend here, Ruby, and we really explored the veganism, that push for people not to eat meat, hence this Monsanto and the push of the Beyond Meat. And we know who's behind that, don't we? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me,
Absolutely.
definitely.
And it's destroyed our soil. It's destroyed our ecosystem, the way we farm. I mean, at best, we've probably got, I'm not an agronomist, but I would hazard a guess at about 8 to 10 harvests left in the UK before we completely, decimate the soil we've got. So we've got a lot of changes to make.
Do you think it's because of the chemtrails of what's being sprayed in the air?
I don't think they help. I found chemtrails out about 10 years ago and started working with a chap who was doing his PhD at a university in the UK in what was basically environmental sciences. And he became aware very quickly, it's a postdoctoral, that something wasn't right. And he started looking into it. And very interesting story, but I was reading the local village newsletter while sat on the toilet, as you do. And he was advertising a talk he was going to do that following week. And it was actually about chemtrails, and I hadn't really looked at this, but I noticed the mention of Monsanto. So I bumped into him and had a chat about it. And that was a great relationship that was created there, friendship. And I helped him in terms of taking rainwater samples and trying to track down where the planes were coming from. And so much work went to the Guardian, and I was pitching it to them, and they were saying, no, it's conspiracy theory, you've got nothing. And then 3 years later, they're talking about solar radiation management, which is fundamentally the same thing. So that went on for some time, and I carried on down the route and decided, I ended up being a single mum of 3 kids. And so I kind of took my life in my hands and decided to work freelance and go and work in agriculture and working alongside the big feed companies, big chem companies, seed merchants and so forth, because it was important to me to understand if my concerns were genuine, if there was actually some validity there. Because again, the work wasn't being done in the background that we see happen now. And it also gave me an opportunity to speak directly with farmers and growers and producers and so forth. And it was as horrific as I expected it to be.
Gosh.
So anyway,
they're offering farmers now as well money to retire early so they can get the land.
And it's not just about getting the land. What we're actually losing there is potentially generations of knowledge, real knowledge about true farming, not this mechanical, monocrop culture that we've created now. And yes, it is true. And it's been leading to that, for those in the know, it's been actually leading to that for some time. This is nothing new. It's been heading in that direction. It's not really my forte at the moment, because the last few years have been focused around health. But I went through these industries, and then I knew in my head the whole time I'd go to bed at night, how do we take the power back? How do we get these guys out of it? How do we take them out of the loop? Because we know now just how vast this is, how integrated it is into every area within our lives. So I spent hours lying there just trying to figure out what is the best way to do it. And it was quite clear that the way to do it is to create models that return power back to the communities, back to the people. So you almost make them irrelevant, government and, big business, big pharma, whoever, you make them irrelevant. And it's a way of taking away their power, reinforcing the power back to the people, without violence, without aggression, because otherwise you could potentially have societal collapse. So it's a responsibility to do it the right way. So when we were creating the model for PHA, it was absolutely in the forefront of our minds to create a model that did return power back to the people, that did make these guys irrelevant, and take their power away, without having societal collapse. And also we have a moral responsibility when everyone starts to wake up, which they will, and I predict that will happen before the end of this year, the majority. We need to have something in place, because you could see a lot of aggression in terms of frustration, fear, anger, and the realisation that they've really had this military style of psychological operations thrown at them.
Do you think the NHS will then eventually collapse completely?
I don't know if it'll. I think what we've known the NHS to be will collapse. This has been it's been in the making for years. I've been out in protests, I've been singing and shouting about it for years that we'd reach this point. And if you look at where they're leading it, we look at the constitution of the NHS, they're two very different things. And I've personally been a massive proponent of the NHS for years. I've said before, my mum was a nurse for 35 years in the NHS. They've saved my life twice. Huge fan for so long, huge fan. So what we've seen happening now is heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. And we still need to push hard for the government and the NHS to turn around what they're doing, which fundamentally means removing probably the government and the senior management of the NHS and returning it back to the hospitals, back to the surgeries, back to where it needs to be. Because PHA are coming along thick and fast, but we're working at a primary care level. We cannot do secondary care. We cannot do acute care. We're not built to do that at this stage. I'd love to think we could get to there, but we're not built that way at the moment. So
is everybody working on a voluntary basis, did you say, as well?
Everyone at the moment is working on a voluntary basis. Some of us are going to have to be paid. I mean, some of us are doing 60 hours a week. I'm a single mum of 3. My savings are pretty much run out, but I will find a way to do this because it's imperative that we do. It has to happen.
How do you start getting people together on board? How did that? I mean, I know for myself, I feel like when you become to be, we were just speaking about it earlier on on another podcast, how your vibration lifts, you go to a higher vibrational state, and then people kind of naturally fall away, and then you attract the people that are in line with what you're doing. Is that really what happened with you? You just magnetizing people that you can help me, is that how it happened for you?
I think there is a lot of that to it, yeah. And I think the time is now. I think almost like I was put on this earth to go through all the crap that I've been through for the last sort of 15, 20 years. There's been a lot I've had to deal with because of choices I made to do what I thought was right, and to know I almost feel like this was a path I was put on to reach a point now where it's made me very resilient. I'm very thick-skinned, very tenacious, and very proactive. And I think because of that, it's led me to this point. And because I'm so enthusiastic and I'm so positive as well, because I've been waiting a long time for this, and I know this is where the new world is born. I know this is how, the veil is lifted, and it's going to be a little bit tricky. It's going to be wobbly, but actually what comes out the other side is beautiful. We can lean back into being human beings and not robots. Not, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you faff about for a few hours, you go to bed, repeat. That's not living, that's existing. And we've got an opportunity here to make a change. And we do that by creating what we want it to look like. And so many people are on exactly the same page. So many people have been chomping at the bit for something like this. I knew it'd be popular, but I didn't realize just how popular it would be. And I think because I'm incredibly proactive and incredibly enthusiastic, it kind of robs off on other people. And, there's other people that have just come along with the same enthusiasm and energy and have just run with it. And it's been genuinely created for the people, by the people, which is exactly what we wanted it to be.
Amazing. So you've launched a platform now, haven't you? That was like a couple of Saturdays ago. Tell us about that. How's that going?
So yeah, really well. We've just had to increase the amount of people we can have come to the website, because it far exceeded already what we were expecting for a few months. So we launched the page. On there is the health optimization program, which is proving really popular at the moment. That is for vaccine injured and post-viral issues that people are suffering. We're not saying it's a cure. We're not allowed to use the words treatment. We're not allowed to do any of that, or they'll run down the road and slap our hands. But in terms of helping to sustain life and hopefully alleviate a lot of the issues that victims are having, it should be able to do that.
Are you helping them connect with trying to get some sort of compensation from their injuries?
Right, not at the moment. It's something that we're working with another group on. So it's another part of how we work. So PHA aren't here to do everything. What we will do is work with as many authentic partners and affiliates as we need to make sure we get answers and services and support to people. So we are working with another partner on that at the moment. We're not there yet. But it is something that's being looked at. What we can do, though, is we've got a new Telegram group formed a couple of days ago where victims can come together and they can receive some emotional support, which is a massive part of it, and also some practical support from some doctors and healers that are a part of PHA. What we're also doing is using our Bite Back social media account to start holding government, NHS, MHRA, all of the bad boys to account, because that needs to happen.
That's incredible.
And they need to be getting the money from the pharmaceutical companies to pay for the treatment of these injured victims. And I think it's something we all need to get behind. They can sign all the disclaimers and anything else they want. It doesn't matter. We're now working on a moral and ethical level, not what your contract says. It's about doing what's right. And that's what we stand by.
Do you really think that you will be able to do that, though, because of the way that this has all been very calculated? I mean, they've done a really good job on people's mind control and the way everybody's been brainwashed into it. Do you think it's possible that you will be able to beat that system and get them victims the compensation that they're entitled to?
It's a really interesting question. The optimist in me says yes, but the practical side of me thinks that effectively it could happen eventually is because of some things that are going on in American politics at the moment, and some EOs that was President Trump signed before he left to do with reparations. And I think that this sort of accountability will come. The trouble is, I don't think it'll be.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say the Nuremberg Code like that was something that people didn't think that would ever come back on them, but then that happened. So you can sort of see history repeating itself, can't you, moving forward as things get exposed. Sorry, will you carry on?
No, that's fine. There will be accountability. There absolutely has to be accountability. We are in the movement now from, a control by evil to a control for good. And I don't like to use the word control, but that is where we're shifting. We're shifting towards good. And those that see good, and it will be the majority, will find that accountability comes, because we cannot allow this to happen again. We've made the mistake once. We're not going to do it again. And what we do is make a stand for history. It's a fundamental stand for history. And so future generations won't be caught out in the same way that we've been caught. And you cannot allow that level of evil to go unchecked.
No. And I know that you have something in place for mental health of teenagers and children as well, haven't you? I mean, they've suffered a massive impact, I think, over this whole last couple of years, which has just been horrific to watch. The mask wearing, the singing happy birthday, washing your hands, and that's like causing so much trauma in children that we probably have yet to see the repercussions of the extent of that. So what is it that what the mental health for the teenagers that you've got in place?
So it's currently being put into place. We've already started in terms of getting information out to parents and carers on how to deal with anxiety in young children, because that's something we were getting reports. I can't get them to they won't let go of me when I drop them at school. They won't sleep in their own bed because of this. And, it's a recurring issue. So we've started there. There is masses to do. We've got an incredible team of specialists come together, but everyone is volunteers. Once we start getting donations come through properly, we start having those funds available to us. It means we can get a much further reach. And I was looking the other day at I can't remember the figures off the top of my head, but the amount that the NHS pour into mental health support, excuse me, it's staggering. Absolutely staggering. But what are they doing with that? When we get reports come in from a lady I spoke to last night, whose grandson was told, he's 19, I think, he was told by his GP, I'm afraid I can't refer you for mental health support until you've at least tried to commit suicide.
What?
What is happening? What is happening when young people have to attempt suicide in order to get help? I mean, it is just ridiculous. Where is that money going? What is it being spent on? Are they just spaffing it up against the wall on whatever they feel like with middle management and high salaries? We're done. This is not how things will continue. It is not how things should happen. We're going to work on a moral and ethical basis. That should be enough. And you do what you can with what you've got to get help to those who need it. But we need the funds big time, because there are a lot of children to reach out to, and mental health private care support is quite expensive for a lot of people. So PHA want to be able to subsidise that, as well as providing support and education for parents and carers to deal with issues at home until we can get to them.
Yeah. And speaking of GPs, when you talk a level of responsibility of who's responsible for these injuries and who's to be held accountable, was what I was going to say. Have you had any pushback? Like, if you had a lot of pushback from GPs that are still in the system and like, no, I fully believe in the vaccine, I fully believe that this is for the greater good of everyone. How has that been? And also, like, in your own environment of your own friends and family over the years, have they been like, you're crazy, girl? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have been called every name under the sun. I've been ostracized out of society. I've had death threats. I've had the whole shebang for speaking the truth. And it comes down to the fact that you are presenting something to somebody that gives them fear, and the reason they fear it is because they don't understand it. So it is a process. We are seeing an awakening. I mean, I'm full of joy. We're seeing an awakening that I've been wanting to see for decades now, and it's happening. And whilst it's a slow, painful process, it's happening. In terms of the GPs, we actually haven't had much kickback, but we're still in the early days. So I'm very prepared for the fact that might happen. But I think I'm of the mindset at the moment that we cannot force people to change their mind. We cannot force people to see it. What we can do is prove that actually we can produce something together that's beautiful and unifying. And when you wake up, you won't be alone. There'll be safety nets in place and we can help catch you. For those that have woken up and they want to leave the NHS, we're doing all we can to support them with the mentor system and building the health hubs, which is staggering, by the way. We thought we might have about 4 or 5 groups at this point from launch, which was only like 10, 12 days ago, who wanted to start their own health hub in their community. We've got over 50 in just that time, and they're actually proactive. It's not just people sitting there talking, they're proactive. Only 3 of those groups are not seeing potential properties this week. That's how fast people are moving.
Wow.
They understand the need. It's not just about... It is. It's fantastic. And people are feeling empowered. They're feeling excited. They're enthusiastic. Some people are saying the words, oh my God, I've been waiting for this and I didn't even realize it. I found my home. I found my purpose in life. I found what I need to be doing. And I think
is this nurses, that are coming away from the NHS? Is that what you mean by the health hub groups?
So some will have nurses and doctors who come from an allopathic background, but we've got a lot of holistic therapists in there as well, from an array of modalities. I was listening in on a meeting last night, and what they want to do is actually saying, wow, this is great in the hub. We can work together and use our skills to support patients from a different way. And the enthusiasm and the knowledge these guys have got is phenomenal. I knew they were great, but I didn't realize just how much these guys knew. And when it comes to approaching things such as cancer or some pretty serious disease situations, that what they can offer is so much more than what we can see within the NHS. If the NHS would only adopt some of these approaches, they may find that they have far better success rate. I'm not saying they're all cures. I'm not saying everything works. What I'm saying is there's so much more available to people that they're not even aware of.
No.
And it's been subdued on purpose, and we're bringing it to fore. We're bringing it into the light.
Yeah, isn't it funny how it's like I was speaking to, and I can't think who was I have on the podcast, saying how, when did it become an alternative to it's like chemo is the only way, it's the only savior of cancer. Like, if you don't have it, you're going to die, and it become an alternative to not have it. Like, when did that become? If you weren't having chemo, then, turn into alternative therapy, then, you were risking your life, but not actually looking at the effects that chemo can have on the body. And, I've always speaking about how we do have the power to heal. And like you're saying about teaching the holistic approach, which is where the world is going, isn't it? This is where the new world is born, not the new world order, the new world. And that's how we take our power back, which is so beautiful to hear. Have you had many nurses that were like giving out the vaccine that have been like, had an awakening and then come away and been like, what have I been doing? I've actually been putting this poison in people, and now, I've seen the light, sort of thing. Has there anybody come forward like that?
We've not had it that I'm aware of within PHA, but I have seen a couple within social media groups and stuff who've put their hand up. And that's another reason we need to get our mental health, not just for children, but our mental health support into position, because there is going to be a lot of regret. There's going to be the buyer's regret coming from those who have had the vaccine. And there's also going to be a regret from those that have helped to distribute that in one form or another. Now, there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of resentment within our movement towards those that have had the vaccine or distributed it. What we do have to remember, and I believe me, when it comes to frustration of people not being aware, I get it. But what we do have to remember is that they have been attacked with a military level psychological operation to distort their lives. And that's precisely what took place. And it was done extremely well. Like you said, it was brilliant. I mean, if you look back at it, it's brilliant what they've managed to do and how they've managed to manipulate. But there's a division, and there is a division in the UK and across the world between the sort of jabbed and unjabbed, if you like. And actually what we're doing is
what they want to cause.
Playing into their hands. We're playing into their hands. This is what they want. Yeah. So we are using the We Hear You campaign, which is for those that have suffered as a result of the vaccine. We're using that to connect people and help the public understand, hang on guys, you were lucky that you didn't fall for it. You could easily have done so. And when people come at me and they argue that, I say, well, hang on a minute. Where were you 20 years ago when I was awake and screaming for help for everyone to listen to me? Where were you? You were asleep. We've all been there at some point or another. It's just we wake up at different times. So we want to utilize this opportunity to almost flip the bird at the government and say, no, your division isn't going to work here, sunshine. We're not interested. And actually the people come together, forget what they're telling you, forget what the media say. We're not interested. This is about helping each other. And we actually, those of us that are awake, we do have a moral responsibility to become healers in terms of helping support those as they wake up to come through that process.
Yeah. I've sort of been, I think because of my, the education, the relearning, I suppose, of immunizations even, and just like all the things that I give my children, then looking into them and the effects and the ingredients, and then hearing so many stories of, you know, when parents have gone and said, oh no, I'm not sure, or I don't want to immunize my children, and they've been made to feel so terrible. And again, I suppose it's the psychological operation, but then part of me thinks if you've gone into that line of work, you have a level of responsibility to understand that you're putting a substance into another human being. You have a level of responsibility to understand all of the ingredients and all of the risks that are involved in that, and therefore inform the parents and not sort of be pushing it almost like a salesperson is what I've been led to believe. So I sort of really couldn't get past that. And I get it about the division, but again, it's the same thing. People have been training just to give this jab out for like a day and then go in and just willy-nilly injecting people. And it just blows my mind how easily they've been like they're brainwashed, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the NHS staff have had even a bigger attack in terms of the psychological push towards them. It all comes down
for the
to
NHS,
the individual.
That was the put them on a pedestal, like big them up, have everyone worship them, and then once they realise they've felt so, and I've spoken to somebody that personally knows somebody who felt like this, I couldn't say anything because people were clapping for me. People were like actually put us on that pedestal, like we were doing something so good in the world, but then ultimately now I've realised, like, how can I come out and say you were clapping for me, but actually, like, you shouldn't have been because it was wrong, you know? And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what we've got to remember is all of these people who have done this and thus inflicted harm, they got to live with that. At one point, it will become obvious. And I've no doubt there's a small handful out there who know and don't care. And they're like, look, I'm just getting paid extra for this. I'm good with that. And actually, yeah. And do you know what? They've got to meet their maker. They've got to face that. That's their problem. They've got to deal with it. For all of those that when it hits, they suddenly have this huge remorse and this, you know, complete horrid feeling hit them of what they've actually done. Again, they've got to deal with that. But that doesn't mean we don't help them through that process if they genuinely and authentically regret what they did or shown remorse. I think they have, from the doctors and nurses I've spoken to, the attack on them has been even more phenomenal than we've seen hit the public in terms of that manipulation. It does sound like they've really been put against the wall with it. But I mean, I had to go to casualty for something some months ago now. And I had to argue with a nurse about wearing a mask. And she was absolutely convinced. And I sort of said to her, where's the evidence? Seriously, explain to you're a nurse. I am in fear of the fact that you are pushing me to wear this bit of paper across my face, not understanding that this is actually not going to help in any way, shape or form.
No.
So that fills me with concern. She had nothing. She had no comeback on that, you know. It is just like with everybody else. It's just this lack of common sense or this lack of ability to think critically for yourself. But this has been decades in the making. I've been watching it for decades and I could see it happening. And I felt
you see like powerless. The little videos of people, how it's been a build up, and you'll watch like in the 70s of them doing, you know, in the surgery, and like the lady standing up when the beep goes off and then sitting back down, and then after 3 beeps she was doing it she was doing it because everyone else was doing it, sat in the waiting room. That's how easy it is. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. Yeah. And so we're going through a great awakening. We're going through something that is a complete psychological overturning of what has been programming that's been forced into us for literally decades. And it isn't going to happen overnight. I do believe by the end of this year, we're going to see some things go off in America that is going to make it very difficult for people to not wake up. That's my own personal perception. But there still will be, I think it's estimated at around 6% of the world that just don't ever wake up. Just won't accept it, won't see it, and they've got to live their lives how they've got to live their lives.
They're living in a different parallel universe, I think, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. But we can't control that. We can't control how and when people wake up. We can't do anything about that. What we can do is start building the new, start putting the safety nets into place, start working together and collaborating, bringing the positivity, bringing the love. You know, I'm getting to watch humanity at its very best right now. When I look in these groups and I see all these messages and I see the love and the connection these strangers are making to work together without ego and without, stress, to create something beautiful for the future. And it's incredible. I feel very privileged that I'm getting to watch this happen.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the pregnancy and birth as well, because I did see there was a Zoom on that as well. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I had, obviously I've got 3 children, and my youngest, I had a hypnobirth, and I've had Ruby speak on the podcast about, wild birth and free births and, taking back that power as a mother to birth our child in an environment where we feel in control because we give the power over. And I know that so many women have experienced some horrific times, and they've been alone, masked up, no partners allowed in the room, and they're having to do it all on their own. And that alone is instilling so much trauma and fear in the mother and child, which just horrified me. And then the babies being taken away and them not being able to see them, giving the test to the babies, it's just turned my stomach. Is there anything like that in place with the People's Health Alliance, like the teachings, like more holistic approach with the hypnobirthing? What's going on there?
So it's something that's actually really close to my heart too. I had horrific first birth in hospital. Everything went wrong. Took control of my second one, home birth, big 10-pound 2 baby, beautiful experience.
Wow.
And third one, I was completely in control as well. So I just recorded a podcast this morning with the beautiful Nikita Stark from When Push Comes to Shove. Now she's an ambassador for PHA, but also we very much work in partnership with her organisation. And we were talking about these very things just this morning. So that'll be out over the next few days. And Nikita is an absolute proponent for women, an advocate for women and birth and what that should look like. And it is down to choice, and it is down to education and knowledge. When all this is said and done and the world is put to rights, I'm going to be a doula. That's my thing. That's what I'm going to do. I can't think of a greater privilege. But
have you been a birthing partner for anyone?
No, not yet. I'm gagging to. I've told my eldest, you're too young yet, but mum has to be there.
I was for my friend. It was beautiful. And she did a hypnobirth as well. So it was really beautiful because I'd had my hypnobirth and then sort of knew the right words to say, through each surge and breath. And I was like, you've just got to get through this, it was just beautiful to experience. It's something
it must be a privilege. And I chomping at the bit to do it. But Nikita is absolutely fantastic. That woman is a warrior, a huge proponent for women. She's taken it left, right and centre from the NHS and other bodies, and she keeps moving forward. And we will be working really, really closely with her in terms of how we deal with this. Because my local hospital, 3 messages in the last 3 weeks going out to people saying, I'm really sorry, we can't do home births now. We can't have the birthing centres running because there aren't enough staff. They're all off for COVID. So, we clearly see that this is going to become a major issue. So she's kindly set up a ton of training courses for any women who are interested in becoming doulas or birth keepers, and supporting women through this, whether it be at home or wherever, any wild birthing or pregnancy they were looking at. I'm a massive proponent, like I say. Nikita's even written a song about it. It's going out on our Twitter later.
Oh, amazing.
The profits going back into the organisation to help. So she's phenomenal, and I suggest everybody go and look at what she's saying. She's building quite the organisation there, and she's an incredibly strong, wonderful woman, and we support her 100%. And I agree with you. It is so important that we look at this and we change how we view birth, and we take away the fear of that is instilled within the kind of medical approach. I'm not saying we don't need a medical approach, of course we do, but for the majority of women, they really want to look at creating the birth that they want, what works for them, what brings you the most peace and comfort. And if that's at home, that's at home, and any woman should be supported in the right to do that.
Yeah, I was really reluctant on. I had Lola at home as well, and I was really reluctant to have the midwife come, because I thought then she's going to examine me, then she might tell me that I'm all 10 centimetres still, and then I was going to get, and so I literally just waited till the last minute, got in the birthing pool and just birthed it, and it was just such a fascinating to compare the different births and how relaxed it was. And it is, again, it's the power of the mind, isn't it? And we have that control, and it's sort of taken away with us through the fear of stories that we hear, and then obviously that we're going into hospital, and it's like it's so important. So I know I touched on the Divine about asking you about the blood banks. I know you said that it's something that you were interested in looking into. Has there been any progression on that? Because it's something that I am. It does concern me a little bit, because obviously you're saying the NHS and the doctors, surgeons, they've all have their place when, if there was, we'd have a car accident or we needed a life-saving operation, they're incredible. It's the pharmaceutical industry that I don't agree with, because I feel like that's just to keep you sick, to keep you relying on the system. But yeah, it's incredible what these surgeons and doctors can do, and obviously the nurses that are there caring for the patients. But the blood, the vaccinated blood now, I believe that, are they not saying that you can't have the vaccinated blood now if you need a blood transfusion?
I've not heard that. I've reached out to a couple of groups in the UK who are looking to set up blood banks for the unvaccinated. So I'm waiting to hear more on that at the moment. At the moment, PHA just don't have the capacity to deal with it internally. We've got some firefighting to do at our end. But yes, there are groups looking into setting up. I believe there is one that's actually now established. I'm waiting to hear back from them. We've made contact. I think that also has to come down to choice. But if you're in a car accident and you need a blood transfusion, how much control do you have over a situation as to what sort of blood you're getting? And this really needs to be addressed, because we've got blood at the moment, which is beautiful, clear and healthy and fine. I'm not saying for a minute you have blood transfusion, you're clearly going to have all those problems that come with it, having vaccinated blood. But who knows? And who wants to take that risk? And who really wants to have that blood put into their system? So I'm a massive proponent for having that opportunity for people to choose. So we're doing what we can. But like everything else, there's a lack of people, lack of funds, lack of everything else to make it happen as swiftly as we'd like to see it happen. But, there's
anyone watching
happening
that can help, get in touch. Know. Yeah, I do actually know somebody personally that's been doing tests on vaccinated blood, and there's many different things that are showing up, different types, if you will. Some they say is like completely disappearing when put under microscope. Some are going into like shards of glass. Some are congealing. So I do think there's different elements in different jabs that have been given out, which is quite scary. And then there's the venom. The venom thing, have you heard about that one?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I haven't bought into that one yet. I've got to be honest, I haven't bought into that one. But what I think it just shows is the fact that we know so little, really. And actually, we shouldn't be in this position. We should know what are in those jabs. We should know exactly what are in those jabs. And we don't. And we can't know, because I do believe you're absolutely right that there's different batches have different things in them. I don't think for 1 minute they're all the same. And I think it was engineered that way.
Too easy then, wouldn't it, for us to figure out what was going on?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely right. But we will find out. It will come.
Yeah.
It will come.
So I just would like to know, where do you go from here? How do you see the People's Health Alliance progressing, and how quickly do you think it's going to grow?
Well, my timing's clearly off because I did not expect to be getting this far so quickly. So who knows in terms of how long things will take. But what I would love to see, and I think will eventually happen, is a health hub in every community to meet the needs of that community, whatever that might look like. I see us branching out in terms of working with partners and affiliates and coming together to build new infrastructure, whether that be food, education, local politics, alternative media.
Expanding over all.
We've already started it. It's already underway, and more will be coming over the next few months to show what that looks like, because actually public perception's key. And if everyone sees us working together and working towards the same end goal, you're going to pick up all that momentum, and people will feel more confident to step forward and maybe put their head above the parapet a little bit. We've also been contacted by several countries now, representatives from several countries who want to adopt. They see what PHA is, they see what we're trying to do here, and it's not all just about health. There's the elements of returning power back to the people. So they want to adopt the model and take PHA to their country. So I've been invited to fly out to a few countries to go and give talks and keynote speeches, which made me laugh a lot because I'm not remotely qualified. And actually start taking this international. So I think in the not too distant future, we should be seeing this go abroad. And I'd like to think we can take the models from other community initiatives along with us as well. So we can look at it from every angle.
Wow. That's really exciting. What about the World Doctors Alliance? Have you had contact with them? Because they've been quite in the forefront of speaking out because of all different expertise, haven't they? So people can't say, you're not qualified, because these guys are at the top of their game, aren't they?
Yeah, we've reached out. We are working. We've got a few connections within that group now. So those conversations are being had, and a few other global health groups as well. It's still early conversations because, like I say, we weren't expecting things to go quite as swiftly as they have. UK-wise, we're pretty well connected now. And it is quite exciting to see, if you like, the leads from a number of different groups and organisations across the world all now starting to come together and have those conversations. And it's something that I'm a strong proponent of, because last year, it was the beginning of 2021, I could see that there are a few doctors and scientists who were just starting to make noises in support of, our side of things. And so being Malone, McCulloch, Ryan Cole, Richard Fleming, Professor Dolores, you had, who else did we have? Lee Merritt, we had Dr. McCulloch, Sam White, all of these guys. I was little old me sat at home and I was like, these guys need to be talking. They need to be collaborating and talking, not working independently. So I managed to pull them all in and do a round table event before they were kind of famous. It's one of my little proud moments, because before that they weren't talking with each other, as far as I am aware. So all of Zev Zelenko, there was 14 key players within that, Dr. Tess Laurie and so forth. And so I just threw one at it, contacted them all with a colleague of mine and begged them to do a roundtable event, and they all turned up and did it. And that was quite a key moment, but it shows the importance of that collaboration. It shows the importance of putting aside the ego, putting aside the personal agenda, and coming together for the greater good, for the greater picture. And I see that happening now on an international scale with all of the groups, the key authentic grassroots groups who want to return power to the people. It's time we all come together and collaborate as much as possible.
Yeah, I see there is different groups doing similar things. That is exactly as you describe it. That's what needs to happen now, isn't it? People getting together and actually doing it all together. And how amazing that you've been able to get all those amazing people together and collaborating and speaking. You should be proud of that. And I think you'd be an amazing keynote speaker.
Was one of those things. People were saying, you won't be able to do it. You won't be able. And I was like, well, that's a red rag to bull, isn't it? I'm going to have to do it now. So I contacted one of my best friends. It's actually how we met. She's a retired lawyer. She lives in LA, but she's from England. And I just liked her spunk and her kind of attitude. And she's a real warrior. And I got her on a phone call and said, look, I'm thinking of doing this. And I want to invite, McCulloch and Malone and McCulloch and all these guys. And she said, oh, when do you want to do this? I said, 2 weeks time. And she just picked herself back up off the floor and dried herself off, and we just got on with it and we made it happen, and it was incredible, and very proud, because now those guys were able to come together and talk and work out a way forward and exposing what's been going on, and that's precisely what they've been doing.
Wow. So people can find you at the People's Health Alliance. Is it .com.co.uk?
So it's actually just because
I will put the link on.
Typing, it's the -pha.org, and everything. Yeah, it's just otherwise it's too much to type. So people can go on there. There's our volunteer database form if you do want to come forward and help out at sort of PHA Central. There's information on the hubs and the hub blueprint. So if you are looking to create your own hub, we've created a blueprint to make it as easy as possible. There's also the vaccine injury protocol, which is called the health optimization program on there, as well as educational information about the different modalities and support. And our practitioner directory should go live within the week. So potential patients can start finding a practitioner that resonates with them in their local area. And that's just going to grow with time. We've had to already up the database volume quicker than expected. So,
do you have holistic doctors on there, as well?
Yeah, all sorts of holistic practitioners, from a number of different modalities. And that's why we do the educational support as well, because a lot of people don't know. They're not quite sure what certain things are or how that works for them. So we're putting the supporting information on there. But it's organic growth. We'll just keep growing as we go. There'll be more and more with time.
Sounds incredible. So I think... have you got anything else that you want to add that I've missed out?
Do look out for the We Hear You campaign. Do look out for an incoming campaign in a few weeks' time to help raise funds, which will be fair for everybody. It'll be something everybody can get involved with. The power of the pound is what we think we're calling it. But there are some campaigns out there. And I think I just ask everybody to reach out with love. And if you do come across somebody who is suffering as a result of the vaccine, it's time to shelve any resentment or feelings that we had and actually just sort of lean into each other and support each other.
Do you think you'll be doing like any fundraisers or anything? Can people like raise money that way and donate?
So on a local level, we've already got some hub groups talking about how they're going to raise funds for themselves, which is fantastic. So if you are interested in getting involved, check out our website and our social media, because we're regularly going to be updating the list of where the hubs are or the hub groups are and how to find them. But yes, we've got this fundraising campaign launching in a few weeks. There is a donate button on our website. So if you are in a position to go and just help out a bit there, that'd be really well received. Thank you so much. But there will be a campaign coming out in a few weeks' time, fundraising campaign, which means everyone can get involved and support this.
Amazing. So you are incredible, very inspiring lady, and I'm just so grateful that you have took this on board and what a woman. Well,
you're doing your thing as well, my love. So, we all do what we can.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Catherine. It's been an absolute pleasure.